This is a lecture from Open Tuition. To benefit from the lecture, you should download the free lecture notes from opentuition.com.
So now we're going to look at performance. Performance, what is it? Performance measurement and performance management. So performance can be defined as here as a task or operation seen in terms of how successfully it is performed. And as soon as we have this idea of how successfully it is performed then there is an implication that, of course, that there must be some sort of judgment, some sort of measurement, really, before we can talk about performance. And what we need to do is to find ways of measuring performance, and indeed, even before that, we need to find out, well, what is performance? What are the tasks and operations or even behaviors that are worthwhile to measure, that are actually contributing to good performance? How are we going to measure them? And then, having measured them, the objective really is to manage them. If performance is poor, we have to try and do something about it to elevate the level of performance to something which is going to be acceptable, to hitting a target normally. The first thing we can think about is where do we get clues about what aspects of performance or really what makes up performance that we want to be concerned with. And the first place we can look at is a mission statement. So the mission statement tells us the kind of objectives, the kind of purpose of a business. And very often within a mission statement you will have words used which are saying what the business is for and therefore where it should be performing. So if you have in the mission statement saying our objective is to be a car company producing cars of excellent quality, then we have quality mentioned in that mission statement, and if that's what you're setting yourself up to be, a high quality car producer, then you ought to be thinking, I need to measure quality. That's an important aspect of performance. That's relevant to our feeling of performance. If you say we also need to be innovative, then you have to measure innovation. If you're saying we need to be profitable, then we need to measure that. If you say we're going to offer a good service to our customers, and that's in your mission statement, then you have to measure that. You have to say that's part of our promise to our shareholders and our stakeholders about our performance. Stakeholder analysis, we'll be looking to see what our stakeholders are interested in. Our shareholders may be interested in dividends and share price, and if so, then we ought to be measuring that. Our customers may be interested in quality and cost per unit, and if so, then we ought to be measuring that as well. So stakeholder analysis can give us, again, aspects of performance. What do they require from us? What do they want from us? And certainly the key stakeholders, their requirements has to be, we have to make sure we get them. We have to think of those in terms of performance. Generic strategies. If we say we're a cost leader, then it's important that we measure our costs and make sure that indeed the costs are as low as they can possibly be, and ideally lower than anybody else. If our generic strategy is one of differentiation, we have to launch new products and new style and so on. If we're saying our products are better because they're styled better, we ought to try and measure in some way. It may not be easy, but how do we know that the style is better or the products are sufficiently innovative if we don't try to measure it? The value chain, remember the value chain is kind of what makes us tick, really. What is it that our customers come to us for and give us good money that allow us to make profit? What is it that we do? Is it that we do something very reliably? Is it that we take risk away from them? Is it that we give them a share of our economies of scale and so on? We need to measure all sorts of stuff in the value chain. If we're going to be spending money training people, then we ought to know how much that speeds them up in the operations. We need to know the linkages. We need to measure the performance of people after and before the training. Boston Consulting Group grid. Maybe what we need to do is we want to change an item from being the problem child, the question mark, up to being the star product. What we'll be measuring there is not profit. What we're measuring there, because this is not a profitable area of the business yet, until we get to the cost cow, what we'll be wanting to measure is increase in market share. That's the immediate imperative that we have to get to. When we get up to the cost cow bit, this is where we want to reap the benefits. If you remember, we want to get the positive cash flow. This is where we'll be very interested in knowing the profitability of an item. We'll be interested in keeping the costs down so that we can get these positive cash flows that have been waiting for a long time. Pestel and Porter's five forces. Porter's five forces, for example, we would be interested in maybe knowing our relationship with our customers. The buyer pressure, we'd be interested in measuring, are they loyal to us? Is there a big churn rate and so on? We would be interested in measuring items to do with our competition. What's their cost per unit versus our cost per unit? What's their selling price versus our selling price? How many products are they bringing out a year compared to what we're bringing out a year? If we don't measure what the competition is doing, if we don't measure and keep track of the behavior of our customers, then we can't really understand the five forces. Similarly with Pestel, if we don't understand maybe what's happening, the population, what the population prefers, then we're not going to be able to understand our Pestel analysis very well. Product life cycle. Ideally, we need to find out where in this product life cycle we are. Are we in the growth phase still, or are we in the mature phase? If we're in the mature phase, we know we have to measure very carefully the cost per unit, because the great price pressure there and so on. If we're in the decline phase, we need to try and measure and estimate how long, how slow this decline is to judge best when to actually leave it. Company structure. If you're a divisional company, then typically what you'll be measuring as measures of performance will be return on investment from each of the divisions, and maybe residual income from each of the divisions, or maybe in a more sophisticated way, the economic value added of each of the divisions. Information technology, very important to organizations. What's the downtime? How reliable is it? How quickly do we have to wait for results coming out and so on? How many visitors, repeat visitors, do we have to our website? How many visitors to our website eventually convert into a sale? This is vital to our performance. Human resource management. How long do people stay with us? How much do we spend on training? How much overtime do they do? What sort of feedback are they getting from customers? We don't know how our people are performing, which ones to promote, which ones need more training and so on, unless we measure certain aspects of what they're doing. So you can't manage hardly anything. You can manage hardly any of these models or frameworks without measurement. Now there can be problems with potential problems with performance measurement systems. First of all, we can have misrepresentation, which is basically people tell you lies. People know that their bonus or their promotion prospects depend on performing well, so they misreport the information. They misallocate expenses somewhere. They maybe book in sales a little earlier than maybe they should and so on to boost the profits. Gaming, playing the system a little bit. So if you had some sort of system where you had 4 sales teams and the biggest sales team got some sort of prize or some sort of bonus, rather than making your sales teams better, what you might do is kind of sabotage the other ones, not pass on sales information, not so that you are better, but so that they are worse. That sort of behavior is known as gaming. Misinterpretation, you get the performance measurement data and you misinterpret what's happened. Sales have fallen, but maybe it's nobody's fault that sales have fallen. Maybe it was not the sales team's fault. Maybe it is that there's been an economic crisis Maybe the production facilities at the factory didn't work. There was simply nothing that they could sell. You have to be very careful in interpreting the measurements. Short-termism, I think we've talked about this already. The great temptation there is really to concentrate on this year's profits, to boost those, to make them safe, to make this year's bonus safe, maybe to cut research and development expenditure, but at the same time this will be increasing this year's profits but really hurting future years' profits. Measurement and fixation and tunnel vision, very kind of similar. Measurement fixation is almost, I think, where you have too many things, you're measuring too many things, and too much time is taken up filling in performance reports and explaining them and so on, and not enough time actually getting on with your job, so to speak. Tunnel vision is making sure you perform well in what is being measured and not maybe seeing the bigger picture. So you will not replace a product that a major customer is complaining with, because if you replace that product, then this looks bad on a performance report. Yet, nevertheless, this could really irritate this major customer. And any sensible person would say, let's replace the product. We want to keep this customer loyal to us. That's the big picture. Sub-optimization, you're given a sales target, you up the sales target, and you kind of stop the effort. You know, you kind of safely, you got your bonus. Why try to get it up to what the optimum could actually be? And ossification means turn the bone. It means that the performance measurement system had been set up 5 years ago, and we've never altered it. We've never altered what's measured. We've never altered the targets. We've never altered really how they're interpreted. And so it's no longer really fit for purpose. It's very, very important that non-financial performance measures are brought in. By and large, performance measures which are looking at the financial results tell you the score, tell you how well you've done, but performance measures which are considering the finance don't tell you how it's done. You can see that your sales have increased, but there's nothing about that which tells you really why your sales have increased, why customers are coming to you. So you have to bring in non-financial performance measures. If you don't do that, then you're going to probably lead to short-termism, because most financial results are for periods of a year and no longer. So you concentrate and get the year's financial performance okay, and it kind of doesn't matter what the rest of the future periods are going to be at all. It's very internally focused. It's very often cost-based that you're looking at here, keeping the costs down rather than maybe pleasing the customer. There is manipulation of results because the financial performance measures are very kind of cut and dried, really. They're kind of over the budget or under the budget, favourable variance or unfavourable variance, and often a very harsh view is taken of something which is not so good. And so this can lead to manipulation of results, misrepresentation that we had in the earlier slide. Partial misunderstanding of or partial understanding of the position. You know that sales have gone down, but it doesn't explain why they've gone down. It could be something, competitor action. It could be to do with the season and so on. We know that production costs have gone up, but we don't necessarily know why production costs have gone up. And finally, they tend to be looking backward. Financial performance measures tend to be based on transactions which have already been posted for last month or the year to date. They don't really look forward enough to say, right, how do we improve things for the future? And this is where non-financial performance measures come in. You can remember the ideal kind of, or at least some of the ideal kind of qualities of a modern financial or modern performance system as follows. It should incorporate both long-term performance and short-term performance. We know that sustainable competitive advantage, sustainable good results is really what we're after. And if we're going to do that, we're going to manage people and push people to get long-term good results. We have to measure them long-term and make them concentrate on that. Utilization. We're looking here really at utilization of resources, material, machinery, people, and so on. We need to bring that in. We need to think about the right dimensions to measure. So not just cost, but also maybe the quality, not just the volume of what we're producing, but also the quality, not just in the volume of sales, but also the flexibility, how quickly we're able to look at different service demands from different customers and keep them happy. We need a mix of methods, financial and non-financial, quantitative and non-quantitative. We need internal and external. We need to measure, for example, internally the volume of sales we make, but that doesn't say very much unless we know the whole market sales. So our volume of sales could go up 3%, but what happens if the market outside increased 10%? We could be very kind of laid back about our increase of 3%, but if the whole market went up 10%, we're actually losing market share. So we need to look at our costs or our selling price versus competitors' costs and selling price, if we can get those. Because we are competing, remember benchmarking, we're not competing against ourselves and what we did last year, we're competing against all our competitors. We need to be outward looking. Link objectives to strategies. So our objectives, these are the SMART objectives. We'll be setting certain objectives, maybe about quality control, maybe about sales volumes and so on. This must link back to the strategy. So if our strategy is low cost, then we must have objectives which measure costs. If our strategy is differentiation, different products being launched to kind of specialist products being sold to people at higher prices, then we must measure how successful we are at maybe launching new products and how successful we are in attracting specialist customers. We must link performance to rewards. Ultimately, it's people who perform, really, and to encourage them to perform, you say, if you get the cost down, if that's what we want, if that's what the strategy is, get the cost down, and they do get the cost down, then that's how you get your bonus. So that's how you get your favourable staff review or your promotion, something of that sort. And finally, it has to be adaptable and flexible. It mustn't ossify, it must keep up to date with changes in what we're doing, changes in the market, changing what our competitors are doing, changing what's happening in the environment. You can measure or remember this, if you like, by the name Ludmilla. 3 methods then of trying to construct more comprehensive performance measurement systems. There's a balanced scorecard of Kaplan and Norton, a nice simple method. And this looks at 4 perspectives: financial, customer, internal, business perspective, and innovations and learning perspective. And it is a hierarchy. It's basically saying that at the top here, you have the financial perspective. This is what we ultimately want to do in a profit-seeking organization. We want good earnings per share. We want good profits. We want increase in share price. We want good dividends. But as I say, nothing about these financial measures, and they're important to have them, but they don't explain why. And Kaplan and Norton say that the immediate cause of good financial performance is kind of happy customers, people who keep coming back, who are loyal, who increase their orders, who will pay you a good price for what you're doing, who will spread the good word about what a good company you are to other people who then become customers and so on. Everything rests, really. The only source of revenue is from your customers. And if it's important to keep your customers happy, you must measure how happy they are, like repeat orders, like churn rate. How often do they change to somebody else? That's not good news. Satisfaction ratings, sales growth, Referral rates. We love to know that a new customer comes along because somebody else suggested that you're a good company. Why do people keep coming to you? They keep coming to you because you do well what you say you will do well. You fulfill your mission. You fulfill the promise of the value chain. That's different for different customers and different companies. Some people come to you because you have a very low cost per unit. They're buying millions of very ordinary little components to put into something. They want a low cost per unit. Other people will come to you because of great quality. They're buying a relatively few number of components. These are maybe being incorporated into an aeroplane. They must not fail. And if that's why they come to you, you need to measure that. Maybe they come to you because you can always deliver within 3 hours. And if that's why they love you, you must set up a performance measure for delivery time, and you must manage people to try and ideally get it better and better. And finally, they say, we have the innovation and learning perspective. This is saying you may be the best person, the best supplier at the moment, but there are lots of other suppliers who will be trying to get better than you. Nothing stands still. You're a competitive environment. And even though your internal business might be perfect, or as perfect as anybody else's at the moment, if you don't keep spending on getting better, then you will fall behind what your competitors are doing. And once you do that, then you will begin to lose customers, and then you begin to lose profits. And therefore it's important that we set up measures for innovation and learning, like number of new products launched, the number of new patents filed, maybe the qualifications or courses that you send your staff on. If you don't set up these measures, there's no reason why management would bother with this. You know, they're not being told it's important. They're not being measured on it. Even if they knew it was important, they could maybe try to save money by not doing that and get into the short-term, long-term trap. The second model, and there's a lot of overlaps with Balanced Scorecard, is a performance pyramid of Lynch and Cross here. What they do is they go down through various levels, like head office here, like your divisions, like maybe the major subsidiaries, like then the kind of departments there. And it kind of goes down like this and kind of goes up like this. Okay. So at the top, we want to make good profits. Think of that as a kind of corporate vision as being a success. And they say, right, we must have a good market presence. Getting back really a little bit to customer perspective. We must be a success in the market if we're going to have good financial perspectives. And the way we're going to get this is we're going to have maybe customer satisfaction with what we're doing, and maybe we'll also show them flexibility. How do we get customer satisfaction? Well, we have to supply goods of good quality. We have to deliver them on time and so on there. We have to have a relatively short cycle time so that we can make the goods kind of quickly and so on. So that's our external factor. This is kind of what the customer sees here: quality, delivery, flexibility, getting the goods delivered on time. But also there's a kind of little crossover here between external and internal. The way we get our delivery quick is, of course, by having a short delivery time here. So short cycle time. So we can quickly put goods through the production line here, and our waste is low. This is going to lead us towards favorable productivity figures. It's going to keep our costs per unit down. It's going to keep our wasted units down. It's going to keep our material costs down and so on there. And this will lead into good financial results there. So in a way you've got almost like your revenue on this side and almost your costs a little bit on that side. And these are the building blocks which they have. And if you're going to get good corporate results, then you do have to pay attention to things like quality, delivery, cycle time, waste, productivity, satisfaction, flexibility, customer satisfaction and so on. The ultimate success of the business rests on these foundations. So in a way, a lot of overlap with the balanced scorecard, but just kind of teasing out some just little differences, some extra phrases, and you need to know what these boxes are. It'd be perfectly easy if you get a multiple choice question, saying here are quality, delivery, cycle time. What is the remaining quality at that level of the performance pyramid of Lynch and Cross? The final one we have is the Fitzgerald and Moon building block model. And this is quite good because this takes it right back to employees and rewards. The other ones didn't quite do that. They said what should be measured, what should the company do, but didn't quite take it down to, and therefore how do we get the staff to do it. So they said what measures or dimensions of performance should we measure. And again, we're getting overlaps with balanced scorecard, we're getting overlaps with the performance pyramid. We need financial performance. We need to measure that. We need to measure competitive performance. What's our market share? Is it increasing? Is it decreasing? And so on. We need to measure quality. We need to measure also in competitive performance what our customers think of us and so on. We need to measure flexibility. Can we respond kind of quickly to customer demands? Because they will think that's important. Resource utilization. Are we efficient at our use of material, at our timetabling of staff, at our use of machinery? If these aren't efficient, our costs are going to be too high. It's going to be very difficult to get good financial performance. And then innovation. Innovation, missing unfortunately, I think, from a performance pyramid. I think in there, maybe it comes in a little bit in cycle time. Bringing new products through wasn't quite explicitly mentioned there, but innovation is explicitly mentioned here as never rest on your laurels. So these are what we want to measure, and then this is kind of how you measure it. What standards for key performance indicators should we have? And it's saying that when you're giving key performance indicators to people, they should feel ownership. They should feel that they can influence it, that they have an effect on it. If they take a decision, it will change the measurement, and so on. They should feel that it's achievable. Because if you give people objectives, remember key performance indicators are just like the really important measure of the most important objectives there. If you give people particular objectives to meet, they have to be regarded as being achievable. If they're obviously unachievable, people will give up. They will become disillusioned and demotivated. And they have to be perceived as fair. So later on, when you're being judged on your whether or not you achieve these measures, let's say there was let's say there was in the country there was a great strike of, let's say, petrol delivery drivers. So it was impossible to deliver anything by road for a month because nobody could get any petrol, and obviously your sales would go down. You would expect that to be taken into account when you came to be judged. And then what you do is you link the rewards to the achievements of these KPIs. So you're giving people, let's say, some sort of performance-related pay here. It should be clear. You should say, if you do this, then you're going to get a 5% bonus. If you do that, you're going to get a 7% bonus. It should be clear. If it's too subjective, if it's a manager kind of thinking and coming out with a random number, then you lose this link between performance and reward. And that's essential to push people into performing correctly. It must be a reward that motivates people. It must be worth having. It must be one which they think they could actually get if they were to try strongly. And it must be one which they feel they've got a kind of mastery over. If I do this, then it is within my grasp that I get this reward. This sort of behavior which I do, which will affect performance, will result in a reward. There is no point giving rewards for elements of performance which are outside your control, which are not your kind of area of responsibility. It simply doesn't work. But this is good because remember, it's got measures, what you want to measure, how you should measure them, and then links those measures to the rewards that you're going to be giving to people.